Hi, and welcome to the Thriving Writer Show. My guest today is Mike Loomis, and Mike helps you with your book, your brand, and your business. And welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Frank. Great to be here.
It's great to have you. All right, let's get right into it. Now, why is a book launch so important for writers to do?
Well, it's the big opportunity to put focused attention on your book rather than drip, drip, drip. Hey, by the way, did you know my book is out? If you have a
Yeah,
launch date to rally around and you have a plan, it creates focused energy around a specific book at a specific date with a specific message. So, that's an opportunity you don't want to miss, even if you don't consider yourself good at promotion or marketing, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. It
yeah,
also, a book launch also helps you set a goal for at least some book sales goal, or if it's free, how many free downloads you get. And it helps you
yeah,
work backwards from a specific date, which is crucial.
absolutely. You reminded me of when I first released a book back in 2006. I spent a year planning the book out, writing the book and putting it together. And then at the end of the year, I was tired. So I didn't market it at all. Do you know how many copies I sold?
I don't
12.
want to guess. 12?
12, yeah.
Yeah.
And those were all people I knew. So,
Exactly. Yeah,
so
you're,
yes,
you are not alone.
so I can definitely see there is some vital importance to having a book launch plan.
Mhm.
So, what's the biggest mistakes that authors are making when it comes to their book launches that you've
Well,
seen?
there are a bunch, and you just named probably one of the leading. But I want to address some other ones that might not be so obvious. The first one is false humility, and
Mm,
what I mean by that is if you really believe in your book, then you'll tell people about it. So you've got to
yeah,
tap in to you've got to lay aside false humility and but still believe in your message enough to tell somebody about it, whether you're tired or not. Books have changed my life. I'm sure that you feel the same way. And man, I'm glad
absolutely.
somebody promoted, tapped somebody on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I got a new book out," for all those books that have meant so much to me. So the
Mm,
second big mistake is that the author's brand is not ready. There's no endorsements. Their website doesn't position them in a good light. And I talk about that in my other book, which is called Your Brand is Calling, which you've been kind enough to blog about. So you want to make sure your foundation is really solid. You need a plan, like we talked about, and you need a team. And that's why I created this new ebook. But the number one mistake authors make with book launches is that the book steals the spotlight instead of using the book to elevate the author's brand. In other words, don't go on a book tour, send your book out on an author tour. You
yeah,
want the book to open doors for you, the author, because you're going to do other books. You're going to have other messages, but you want to use the book to elevate your brand and reach new people and position yourself the way you feel like you're called to be positioned.
that's an interesting idea because a lot of the emphasis that I hear, and probably most of the people watching this have heard, is that the book is the important thing. It's not the author, and that's a really crucial thing that I would agree that people miss because I mean, yeah, you are going to write other books, and hopefully this one book is not your one shot to make a difference. So yeah, that's a great point.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Well, what do you say to somebody that says, "Hey, Mike, I'm a writer. I'm not a marketer. What should I do? I mean, why should I bother with trying to sell this book? Shouldn't it sell
Mhm.
itself?"
Yeah, well, man, you've opened up lots of cans of worms there, Frank. Shouldn't it sell itself? I love that. I love that line. If you build it, or build it, they will come. If you
Yes.
hit publish, they will buy it. I think the latest stats and you probably know this better than I do, is 4,000 books are released on Amazon every day
Yeah, it's huge.
now. I mean, it's just mind boggling. So, but in my experience, because I come from a business background before I got into writing and publishing, but that's kind of unusual. And most authors are great communicators, but they're not experienced in marketing. And they
Yeah.
think they don't like marketing or sales. So that's, first of all, that's why you need a proven plan to follow and a strategy. Uh, and you can, in the process, inject your own personality, just like writers do when they're writing a chapter, and they use their gift of communication to help people, to grip people, to shake them up, to change their thinking, change their hearts. Your marketing can be all about that too. It
Yeah.
should be well. I'll say it this way: telling your story is the essence of marketing. That's what marketing is, and introducing people to something that will improve their lives is the essence of sales. So don't buy into those false stereotypes of what marketing and sales are. It's telling your story and then introducing your story to other people.
I love that. I love that because I think oftentimes writers think that the story is the book you're selling, and it's not your story as part of it. And maybe even as a fiction writer, that's important too. And I think I was talking with somebody recently, and we talked about, I'm writing fiction and I'm writing nonfiction. And it just sounded to me like, well, it sounds like when you're writing nonfiction, you're just telling the story and putting a character that is the hero in doing the thing that you want people to do.
Hmm.
So, and again, I think that applies to marketing, just as you said.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, make the reader the hero in the story.
Oh, big time.
Yeah,
I've never heard it said that way, but I love that.
yeah, yeah. All right. Now, how about endorsements? How important are they? And is it hard to get them?
You know, I'm primarily, well, almost basically exclusively in the nonfiction world. And I know the rules are a little different, I can say with great confidence that in the nonfiction world, endorsements are key. And that's because when you buy a book or you buy a product or you buy a washing machine, you're going to check the reviews. You're going to see who says this is a good book, product, whatever. And for authors who aren't well known, if this is your first book or maybe your third book, but you still haven't reached that level of success with your writing, endorsements can position you as credible in the buyer's mind. The reaction for a first-time author or somebody who hasn't achieved that level of success that they're working towards, the reaction you want in the reader's mind or the potential buyer's mind when they see the endorsement is, wow, why haven't I heard of this guy before or this before? It's like, oh, why am I the last to know? This author must be a pretty big deal because he has all these terrific endorsements from people that I respect already. So they're hugely important. And I help people go through a strategy to do what is usually the most scary part of gaining an endorsement, and that's doing that cold call email to an influencer. You're great at this, and we've chatted about this before. And so if you have at least some guidelines to know how to approach an influencer, it's going to raise your chances of getting a great endorsement. And when you're making your wish list, because this is part of the process, you need to write down who would be a great endorser. In other words, the audience I'm trying to reach, who do they already respect? And so if it has, for example, Frank McKinley's stamp of approval on it, well, of course, I'm buying that without even thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So the two kinds of endorsers you want to list are known names. Those are authors, you just recognize them by their name. But also don't overlook endorsers who are attached to known brands. For example, you might not know who the CFO of some charitable organization is that's a global brand, But if it says their name, comma, this giant brand that everybody's heard of, that's just as good, or at least almost as good, as a known name brand. Does that make sense?
Oh, sure. So, in a sense, when you have a big shot or a big influencer's name on your book, people will associate you with that person and that level of quality.
That's
That's
it.
what you're saying, right? And
That's
that's,
it. Yeah.
yeah, especially if you're new to the game and you're not well known, I think that is huge. That is huge.
That's instant, at least, at least an instant increase in credibility.
No, absolutely. And that's something you really need if you want to sell some books.
It's so important because there's, like we talked about, there's so many books. It's why should it, and it's not the $10 or the $20 that people are questioning. It's
Hmm.
why should I invest 5 hours,
Yeah,
10 hours of my life with this book? You really, you've got to do everything you can to convince the reader that this is worth their time.
that's true. That what's inside is worth spending time with.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, tell me about Amazon ranking. How do you get that, and how important is it really?
Well, how do you get it is all about that laser focused attention on, really, it's not just launch day, it's really the morning of the launch. Now the whole day matters, and
Hmm.
people check their emails throughout the day, or they check social media throughout the day. But if you can get the snowball starting to roll in the morning on Amazon,
Hmm.
and I've got a few tips and tricks on that in the planner, that basically Amazon's algorithm goes to work and they calculate. And if you've got a good category that's niche enough, you can, well, like I said, I've done many launches for clients, and every launch has resulted in an Amazon #1 because it's not rocket science. But let's talk about, is it important? I have a yes or no answer to why it's important. And that is, I believe it is important because goals are important. For you and your launch team to have a goal, it's a measurable result that you can all celebrate. But you have to define what success means to you, because if you're looking for a financial return, then money and reviews and brand elevation, speaking invitations, all those things need to be taken into account. I like shooting for #1 because it shows there's an audience and it's a fun goal with kind of a prize at the end.
All right, Mike. Tell me about Amazon ranking. How important is that?
That's a yes or no answer. If I'm allowed to give a yes or no answer,
Sure,
because
sure.
on one hand, ranking may mean nothing to you. It might not be aligned with your goals, but it goes back to, what are your goals? If you're looking for financial return, then #1 ranking means you're selling books. At least if you're in the paid category, and if reviews are important, that's important. If you want to tout that you were an Amazon bestseller, that's nice. You get the little badge on Amazon, which is fun, #1 new release, or you get into top new releases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of fun. I like shooting for it because, as we talked about, it's not that difficult with that focused energy and a plan to focus on a certain day. And I have some tips and tricks in the planner to help you do that. But it's very simple. It's all the energy on a certain morning, and if you're successful and if you have critical mass with your team, and you'll hit #1. It'll be on there for a few hours or a few days. Grab the screenshot and celebrate.
Yes.
It's a fun
Awesome.
milestone.
Oh, yes, sure is. I know when I saw mine go there, it was great, and I was sharing it everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, for a writer, especially, like when you shared your story about, gosh, I was tired. you know,
Yeah.
I can relate myself. Man, that's just a nice boost because it's nice to have confirmation that people are resonating with your message. But then, you know, the part two of that is you hope that it turns into reviews.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
And that'll help you get noticed as well.
big time.
So, what about if you're talking with somebody who's already released a book? Can they relaunch it?
Well, absolutely. That's because there's a big difference between a release and a real launch.
I
And
see.
but I have good news is that you, of course, you can launch or relaunch your book anytime, but just make sure there's a legitimate reason to get people excited about it. And
Yes.
for example, well, it's now in paperback. Maybe you first released it on Kindle and now it's on paperback. Okay, that could open up a whole new audience. Uh, the audiobook is here. I have new bonus content. I just upgraded the Kindle with lots of freebies, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's new, revised, expanded, or it's 40% off. You know, that's another reason. If you put it on full price, you know, good for you. And you want to run a promotion 6 months later, great, do that. But you need a reason why this is newsworthy. And the same thing relates to contacting the media, which can be part of a book launch. Local media, national media, guest posts, interviews, kind of like we're doing here. You need a reason why would that publication's or that blogger's audience be interested in this book launch? Gosh, it's been out 6 months. What's the big deal? So you just got to be able to answer that question. But I talk to people every month who've already launched and they're looking for some new life to be breathed into their work. It's absolutely possible.
Awesome. That's great news. And I
Yeah,
hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you could every time you release a new edition or like the paperback or the audiobook, that is a good reason to get it out there. Or maybe you could tie it in with something current going on, I would think, right?
that's a great point. Yeah, if the topic of your book is front page news now, and
Hmm.
that's a great reason to promote it. And it's a great way to get an angle in with publications and the media.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, what's the keys, would you say, to a successful book launch? Or what are the critical things people need to do?
First of all, is define success. I talk to so many authors who are have a goal of I want to sell a lot of books. And if you can't tell me what a lot is, I can't give you
Yeah.
feedback on how to get there or if you're
Right.
delusional. We need to have that talk, you know. Uh, I never talk anyone out of going after a big goal, but let's be realistic. Let's see what works in the market. Let's follow some proven uh, strategies and then go from there. So you've got to know what your goals are. For example, you may want to do a free book, but the book has a really great call to action in the back about you speaking, and it's got a video, you know, link to take you to your YouTube page or your web page. And the whole purpose of the ebook might be to get speaking engagements. Well, then in that case, you don't need to sell 1 million books to have a really successful launch if you get 20 speaking engagements as a result of that ebook. So, you know, whatever your success definition is, that's going to make or break it, because at the end of the launch, you need to be able to measure, well, hey, was this a good launch or not? So the second key is planning. Now, even though we just talked about, yes, you can relaunch your book, I recommend at least 3 months of disciplined planning and follow the steps. Now, ideally, we're talking 6 months ahead of release. So you really want to work on your book launch while you're still writing, which is no easy task. But these days, and you know this, Frank, every writer has two jobs. They're a marketer and they're a writer. So
Yes.
don't wait to the end of the process to start thinking about these, because it can take 30 to 60 days to get really good endorsements. maybe a forward could take 90 days or more.
Hmm.
To get all these things lined up, get your launch team built, get everybody excited, get the languaging, get to the social media plan and your launch day plan, takes some time. So first of all, define success. Second of all, planning. Most of all is build a team that is genuinely interested in and enthusiastic, and they can't wait to tell others about you and the book. Not just the book, like we talked about, because you want to send your book out on an author tour.
Mm-hmm.
You want the end result a year from now when the book's been out. You want people to remember the author, and then whatever. Once the people have created brand loyalty with an author, then they'll just keep hitting that buy button. They'll just keep buying those pre-releases on Amazon, so they get it as soon as it comes out. It's a no-brainer. So, and doesn't it always come down to relationship, Frank? I mean, really. And so you're not going to curate those relationships in the week, between when you submit your stuff to Amazon or whoever or your printer and the time it releases. Man, this starts yesterday. So you want to build those relationships by sharing your content along the way, so people are excited about your book.
Sort of like planning a vacation. It sounds like if you have a real destination,
You definitely should plan one after book launch week.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of like accountants do after tax season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And if you have some goals and you hit your goals, man, you'll have a lot to celebrate.
oh yeah. And the reason the vacation thing came to mind was because, I mean, if you want to go somewhere, you got to know exactly where it is you want to go. And that way the map will take you there. And what you do is help people lay out the map to get to that place they want to go.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah. All right, Mike, tell me, finally, why did you develop this Launch Planner ebook?
Well, as we talked about earlier, books change lives. They've changed my life. And I've seen so many authors who could have reached twice as many, 10 times as many, 100 times as many people if they just had a plan to follow and simply followed it. That's a lot easier than dreaming up a marketing plan if you're not a marketer, right? And I've been helping authors with book launches and launching brands and products for 20 years. So I've gotten so much response when I've shared just early, very rough versions of the launch planner over the years. And it's, every year I improve it because I actually do this with clients. So it suddenly, because of my lightning fast mind, it suddenly dawned on me that I should share this with other people because it's effective and people have said it's really helped them. So that's really my motivation behind it. And I believe it's going to help a lot of people reach more people with their words.
That's awesome. And I hope it does.
Thank you, Frank.
I'm glad you were here today, and we'll put out all the information that people need to get your book, to get in touch with you in the notes below. Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, and best of luck.
You too, Frank. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Have a great day.
You too.